And to the angel of the church in Pergamos write, These things says he who has the sharp two-edged sword. I know your works, and where you dwell, where Satan's throne is, and you hold fast to my name, and did not deny my faith, even in the days in which Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was killed among you where Satan dwells. Pergamos literally means citadel, and is the word from which we get parchments. It served as the Roman province of Asia Minor for over 250 years. It was an important religious center for the pagan cults of Athenia and other gods. It was the first city in Asia to build a temple to Caesar and become the capital of the cult of Caesar worship. Verse 13 says, I know your works and where you dwell, where Satan's throne is. And you hold fast to my name and did not deny my faith, even in the days in which Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was killed among you where Satan dwells. Regarding where Satan's throne was in Pergamos, it is believed to be the headquarters of satanic opposition and a Gentile base for false religions. Asclepios, the god of healing, was the god most associated with Pergamos. His snake-like form is still the medical symbol today. The famous medical school connected to his temple mingled medicine with superstition. One prescription called for the worshiper to sleep on the temple floor, allowing snakes to crawl over his body and infuse him with their healing power. Now, what comes to your mind when you hear this? We know that modern medicine or pharmaceuticals have become a god in our society today. In Revelation 18:23 through 24, speaking of Babylon, says, The light of a lamp shall not shine in you any more, and the voice of bridegroom and bride shall not be heard in you any more, for your merchants were the great men of the earth. For by your sorcery, pharmakia, all the nations were deceived, and in her was found the blood of prophets and saints, and of all who were slain on the earth. Now sorcery, from which we get the word pharmakia or pharmacy, will deceive all the nations during the tribulation period. Many will resist this medical tyranny and be martyred by the Antichrist. And so we see in this text that Antipas was called a faithful martyr in Pergamos. Tradition says Antipas was burned to death inside a brass bull. No doubt Antipas resisted the pagan idol worship of the Roman gods in this city. Now, martyr is a Greek word that means witness. Because so many of the witnesses faithful to Christ were put to death in that city, the word martyr developed its current definition. Pergamos is often labeled the compromising church. The major threat to Christians in Pergamum came from its role as a center of emperor worship in Asia, a function that went with it being the capital city. Caesar worship required each citizen, once a year, to offer a pinch of incense to Caesar on his altar and profess him as Lord. The citizen was then given a certificate valid for 1 year, which allowed him to worship whatever god or gods he preferred with impunity. Perhaps this is why it is called the throne of Satan. Satan's throne may also denote the activities of the secret mystery religions at Pergamum. Alexander Hyssop, in his famous book, Two Babylons, gave much documentation to show that Pergamos had inherited the religious mantle of ancient Babylon when Babylon fell in the days of Belshazzar. The priests who had kept the secrets of the ancient mystery religious centered at Babylon ever since the days of Nimrod were forced to migrate at that time, transferring what amounted to the headquarters of Satan's religious system away from Babylon north and west to Pergamos. In the context of life in a provincial capital, where the proconsul was granted the right of the sword, the power to execute at will, the sovereign Christ with the two-edged sword would remind the threatened congregation that the ultimate power over life and death belongs to God. What we can learn and apply from the church at Pergamos is that we will face situations in our future that will cause us to compromise or be tempted to compromise our convictions. Our conviction to serve Christ over any worldly powers may prove to be costly, but Jesus promises us, "Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life." Hidden manna would be another way of saying that he would give them eternal life. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. While the manna in the wilderness sustained Israel for 40 years, but they still died, Christ gives us a better manna. Manna was a honey-flavored bread with which God fed the Israelites during their years of wandering in the wilderness. According to Exodus 16, verse 33, the Israelites were to memorialize that divine provision by keeping a jar of manna inside the Ark of the Covenant during their travels. The hidden manna represents Jesus Christ, the bread of life, who came down from heaven. He provides spiritual sustenance for those who put their faith in him. The hidden manna symbolizes all the blessings and benefits of knowing Christ. Maranatha.